Hello and welcome to another episode of a Wicked Parley. We are finally back, and this time, hopefully, God willing, no plagues, no more plagues specifically, will strike any of us down. We'll be able to consistently produce episodes. I am so very sorry for our absence as of late. A lot of things have been going on. Yeah, December was a crazy thing.
December was nuts. The months previous were nuts. Just everything was kind of insane with new schedules and all that, I think.
Yeah. Finishing up my pretty much school stuff and just work-related other things and like the show management and like all these other things. And then on top of that, I got sick. Not once, but twice. Like, I am so done with being sick. And
we are so sorry.
Yeah, seriously. I want to apologize to all of our viewers. I do appreciate all of you.
Thank you for staying with us as long as you have.
Yeah, and if anyone...
And we hope you continue.
Yeah, and if anyone is dealing with an illness or plague-like symptoms, I hope you get a swift and speedy recovery. Tonight's episode is going to be on traditions, but before we get into that, Rose, I hear we're bringing back a new form or an old take on a new form of torture.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
God.
We are. Can you guess what it is? Can you?
The Wheel of Challenge.
Bing, bing, bing. Guess what's back?
No. Oh, God. Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm going to specify this, okay? All right, so there's some specific details if we're doing this, okay? Number one, if it starts to kill me or hurt me in any way, like the running challenge, yeah, we're just cutting that shit, okay?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Number two, detailed reports. Not
detailed reports?
Yeah, not this sucked at the beginning of every week. Like an actual, this is the effects that we experienced are going to be detailed out. And the viewers at home, please, if you have any suggestions, go ahead and throw them in the comment section or email the show at wickedparley@gmail.com, and I will curse you and the rest of your lives for anything that's torturous.
She'll curse you. I'm going to filter through them like nobody's business.
Yeah, she's like chaos. She enjoys watching me suffer. And here's the other thing too.
Not just you.
Okay, yeah, I know exactly. Because every single thing that's on this freaking list, you're also doing. I ain't doing this alone anymore. No solo adventures, okay? I don't care. All right? So, with that being said, let's find out what new level of horror I'm in store for until, February 7th?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, okay, 30 days from whenever an episode airs, that's how we're doing this.
Okay.
Oh, shit. Here we go. Yeah. All right. Let's do it. I swear to God. No. Oh, no!
Oh, that's gonna hurt. Oh, that's gonna hurt.
I have dry skin! No!
Oh, that's gonna... Oh, okay. Like, that's not too bad for me because I do hot showers anyway, unless I'm, trying to go quick, but, This is gonna hurt, and it's especially the winter months, so it's still a winter time, so it's not gonna be as terrible, but god darn it.
I'm gonna be ashy as fuck.
It's called get a lot of moisturizer and lotion. Imagine this during summer, though.
I would be more okay with it. I would actually genuinely be more okay with it.
Why?
Because at least I would be hot and oily and sweaty, and I guess I wouldn't as gross as that probably sounds, I literally during the winter I dry up, okay? My skin becomes all chalky and I just know. Hot shower, oh god, oh my Lord Jesus. Okay, well, all right, as you guys can experience, fucking hot showers is the.
This is gonna be annoying.
It's
gonna be absolutely scalding.
Yes, it is. Okay, all right. So tonight we're going to be discussing traditions, customs, and cultural beliefs of sorts. They're all interrelated. And the main topic of discussion was discussing traditions. The staff at Wicked Parley kind of gotten into a discussion pertaining to what traditions really were about. You know, how did they start, where they come from, especially considering all of the things that happened over the course of the month of December with New Year's, with Christmas.
Lots of traditions, lots of celebrations, lots of customs. You know, why do they matter?
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, that's what kind of, like, led the discussion tonight. And hopefully you guys, find it interesting. If not, I mean, hey, at least I'm going to have a good time talking about it. And so, there's that.
Yeah, I've enjoyed looking through a bunch of different traditions and customs. Do I remember anything I read? Probably not.
Okay. All right. Well, let's first start with the definition of a tradition. It comes from, the definition we're going to use comes from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. And the definition we're going to choose to use is an inherited, established, or customary pattern of thought, action, or behavior, such as religious practice or a social custom. I feel like this particular definition is pretty well-rounded, and so it's something that I think is going to be able to touch on all the aspects and mean what we're intending it to mean. In this world of constantly changing vernacular, it is important, if not imperative, to be able to accurately define what we're actually saying. So,
Yes.
I mean, yeah. Anywho. Let's go ahead and go into the first thing I kind of want to mention when it comes to traditions.
Yeah,
has to do with kind of like a blog post. There was a blog that I came across when I was doing some research that I feel like is kind of interesting because it talks about family traditions. And family traditions are a form of tradition. They're not, of course, the only ones, but they also have some consequences which I think are kind of helpful and kind of fun. One of the first and most important things about traditions, particularly family traditions, is the fact that they are supposed to commemorate important events. They strengthen, as the article points out, bonds and make memories. These things are incredibly impactful because they're the things that you're going to intimately relate to in the future. So we can go a little bit faster on that. Yeah, just a little bit faster. Okay, cool. So I just kind of want to briefly kind of throw this article up here and kind of explain a couple things. The first thing that's important to understand about this particular thing is that, they're a generational thing. They're something that is going to pass from one group of people to the next. And so things like the nuclear family are incredibly important to at least family traditions because they're going to be the things that are necessary to enforce the continuation of it and actually be a tradition, rather than being some neat thing that you did once or twice with someone who was vaguely your family member and then like they just kind of disappeared and they stopped.
Bye.
Another thing that's important to understand is that it doesn't have to be just blood relatives. Family can be people you choose. So it's not like it's exactly like isolated to just like, okay, this person's my mother, this person's my father, this person's a sister, this person's a brother. It can be people you choose as well that are kind of your friends. It's really anybody who is in your inner circle. That's what constitutes family. And typically, just like with the definition, a family tradition is something that you commonly share with everyone frequently. A key notation that seemingly, although it doesn't strictly follow, is that traditions typically take place one or more times throughout a year. There are certain examples that break this particular tradition. An example you could think of is like certain things like the Tooth Fairy or like Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, where they are a tradition, and then when you become a certain age, they stop being a tradition. But then that particular tradition carries on when you might have children, or a niece or nephew has children, sort of thing. And so these kinds of things can kind of be important. And we can kind of click off the article. If you guys are interested in this particular article, I think it's chock full of interesting things that have to tie to specifically family traditions. But that's not just what we're talking about today. So if you guys want to read up on it on your own time, I encourage it. It's a good read. All right.
I'm curious as to what traditions the audience typically does with their family.
Yeah, I wonder that too. I mean, hey, if you guys have a particular tradition that you feel strongly about, go ahead and throw it in the comment section below if you're watching this in the future. And if you're watching it live, well, throw it on the message on the board. Although, I think right now we don't have anybody, so, eh.
Sadness.
Nah, it's fine. Guys, people are probably busy. Like, hey, where the fuck are these people at for 2 weeks? I don't got time for this shit. All right, we're
I don't
moving on.
have time for no shows.
I know, right? That's okay. So there's a big question that I think kind of is important that gets raised up when you talk about traditions. And it's one of the first questions. What do you think that is, Rose?
Why do they matter?
Yes. Why do
It's
traditions
like, what's the
matter?
big deal? You know, it's just like, don't go to another country and say that, because, oh boy,
Yeah.
the amount of trouble you will get into. I'm pretty sure if you start questioning things, that is liable to go into jail for some countries.
I don't know about that. That seems a little extreme, but I mean, it could be
I
in
mean,
some
some
cases.
countries are extreme.
Yeah.
In U.S. standards, at least.
I, as a person who has never truly left the United States, like I have left the continental United States, but I have never truly left the United States. I have no hill to stand on in this. All I can say is that there are a lot of countries out there, and it seems like there's a lot of different perspectives. And if I was a betting man, I would say that you're probably right. There is probably a culture out there that if you were to say something heinous about their particular culture, that they could put you into some serious trouble, maybe even jail. I'm not gonna fight you on that. I'm not gonna die on that hill. So, but to circle back to the actual question at hand, why do they matter? They matter for a lot of reasons. Traditions are commonly one of the most common ways in which demographics transfer knowledge from a older demographic to a younger demographic. These types of traditions can take the form of specialized hunting activities or fishing. This could be a certain way of growing certain crops or preparing certain feasts. This can take the role of maybe certain religious practices and the importance of that practice or the specific timing of that practice. There can be lots of different spiritual elements that are involved in it that have to do with maybe honoring ancestors or honoring some aspects of nature or even certain activities, because there's ritualistic versions of traditions. And so all of these particular things are really important because it allows us to have some semblance of connection with our ancestors in our past. It creates a sense of identity, not just for the person, but the culture that person is a part of. And it allows us to have some sort of specific, unique characteristic that we can reflect on and be proud of. That is one set of many reasons why they matter. But I wonder, Rose, of what I listed, do any of those apply to you?
A few of them that I was able to capture, because I know I follow my family traditions. I have no idea what the heck we're doing, because my parents would do the preparations for them in a whole nother language that I'm still working on learning.
Mm-hmm.
But it gave me, the chance to be with my family more than usual, because my immediate family was just a bunch of little hermits until food time, or until shopping time, or until tradition time.
Okay.
So we were just a bunch of hermits that just kind of stayed in our rooms working on each of our separate works until, we had a reason to get together.
Oh my. That seems a bit funny.
Yeah, my immediate family is just nothing but hermits, so... With maybe the exception of my brother, but he's across the country, so...
Yeah. Well, talk about one specific kind of tradition that you can directly connect to.
So there's this one, I don't remember what it's called, but once every couple of months, once in the summer and once in the winter, typically when I'm here, at least the ones I join a part of, we get a lot of food together, a lot of paper money, a lot of paper, spiritual paper, and essentially paper outfits and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
and we lay them out on a table with a bunch of red utensils and pray to our ancestors to, pray for good luck, well wishes, and whatnot. And we burn the paper money, we burn the paper outfits, and we light incense on pretty much every single dish so that they can also partake in those dishes. And partake in the money that we sent them, the paper money, obviously, because
When you say
and then the outfits and stuff.
Yeah, when you say you burn paper money, does that like mean like you're, committing a felony and destroying federal currency?
When I say paper money, I kind of forget that the U.S. money is just paper money. It's like fake.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's like fake money.
It's
Gotcha.
yeah, I keep forgetting that like in this country specifically, and a couple of others, that the money actually is frickin' paper. So paper money was not the word to use. It was supposed to be fake money.
Gotcha.
And not like counterfeit fake money, just like actual, it's clear, it's fake.
You're like, hold on a second, Grandpa. Let me just go ahead and pull out some 20s real quick. Don't worry, freshly printed. All right, let me go ahead and light that fuse.
But yes, it is absolutely clear that this money is freaking fake.
Okay, all right.
You can buy like a bunch of hundos for like $2 at the Asian market.
That actually makes a lot of sense now why I see that. Because I've always wondered, like, why the fuck is there's always so much fake money?
It is specifically so when we pray for the well wishes, we pray for good health, that sort of thing. We send it to our ancestors so that they can also use that
you imagine
semblance of money.
You can imagine if like there's an actual reality to the currency that you send up, and they're like always pissed off that all this fake money's being sent their way. Like, I can't spend this.
I think it's the principle of the thing, because that's also the same thing for like paper outfits, and I do mean paper outfits. They look like actual outfits until you touch them and realize they're paper.
Wow, I mean,
there's like fake shoes, there's like fake formal wear.
I sure hope that's not expensive.
Bunch of different. Depends on where you get it.
Oh, dear Lord. That's a racket right there.
Yeah. Because it depends on the situation too, because it can range from very cheap to like very, very cheap rituals, or like the daily prayer or whatever. Those are pretty darn cheap. But for a cremation that I remember going through, we had this burning cloth to send up with the deceased so they could wear it in the afterlife. That thing was like $80.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, hey, at the end of the day, customs and traditions and religious practices like that, I think, are just as important as remembering the individual, as also, creating support for the people that are, still around.
Yes.
So
I didn't realize I had talked so long. My bad.
Hey, don't worry. Hey, it's okay. It's explaining
I remember
it.
Because that's the one I remember, and that's the one I most care for, because my mom would actually ask me for help rather than trying to do it on her own.
Gotcha.
This was the woman that would kick me out of the kitchen when I was trying to learn how to cook from her.
Oh wow. If anyone knows what the name of that tradition is, feel free to throw it in the comment section. I'd be interested to know the name.
Yeah.
Okay. Not to move on too much, but there is a couple other really important things about traditions that matter a bit that I kind of want to discuss.
Yeah, of course.
The next one, and it kind of connects a little bit with what you're saying, has to do with how traditions connect communities together. Now, I think most people in the United States who are pretty familiar with the idea of, hey, the church can kind of sometimes bring people together, or like certain elements of cultural like faith can unify people, like the Day of the Dead in much of the Hispanic culture. And these things are a way for people to be able to feel like they're a part of something. I think one of the most important elements of the human condition that's often lost on people is the fact that we all have a desire to feel belonged. We have a deep desire to feel connected to something. And when we don't have that connection, we're miserable. Go to any local therapist and ask what is the most common reason for someone to come in, and I would be willing to bet that there's a pretty strong margin that depression that's led by, not feeling connected is probably pretty high on that list. And so, in addition to, of course, connection, it also is a way of promoting health. The grandparent or father or grandmother or mother can often teach children how to do certain things. They can make certain foods. They can practice specific exercises because they have had previous experience. Maybe there's a health problem that runs in the family. The elders may have ways of dealing with that particular problem, managing that health issue, and they can teach it to younger demographics. And so, it furthers this idea of connection to the roots, promoting health, creating bonds within communities, helping combat things like anxiety and other types of mental ailments, basically feeling like you are fulfilled. You're leading a happy, healthy life, and you are gaining values and stories and survival skills along the way. To me, all of those things are why traditions matter. And so I wonder, to you, do you think there's anything that could be added or maybe you particularly connect with when it comes to all of those particular reasons outside of the one that you just mentioned?
Unfortunately, not off the top of my head. I know a friend of mine does this daily prayer, though. Like, every day to pray for, their health, their family's health and whatnot. It involves this chant that they've got completely memorized, and I swear it's just this constant mumble for about 2-3 minutes. And I'm like, it's actual words, not just gibberish too, and it's the same mumbling. And I'm just like, well, that's one way to improve your memory.
Do you know what faith it is?
I believe he is Buddhist.
Buddhist, okay.
One of the many forms of Buddhist, at least.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch, right?
Yeah, because his version of Buddhist is different than my parents, because his version does the chanting and prayers and stuff. My parents did prayers, but they do that with incense and praying in front of a shrine that we have at home. He has this bell that he rings, and he can kind of do it anywhere as long as it's quiet.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, well, that kind of in some ways kind of leads on to a common question that, I think at this point many people might be wondering about. What is the difference, between a tradition and a custom? And a custom in the sense that it has a certain religiosity, to that particular thing.
Okay, because I don't know if there's a distinct difference, so I'd love to know more because I use them interchangeably, but I might be who knows if somebody's gonna get offended by that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I don't think so. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to assume. Because definitely when I started doing research on this particular topic, I definitely was a little bit confused at first because there didn't seem to be a clear distinction between a tradition and a custom or a set of religious beliefs. But
so if you had to put a distinct difference, what have you found?
Well, I mean, after doing a little bit of research, it did kind of become a little bit clearer. I think the best way to kind of think about this is that traditions, religions, customs, all these sorts of things are all interconnected. They all basically fall under the same umbrella, but they kind of have different levels of depth depending on how long those particular traditions have been around. So the gathering of food, the servicing of hunts, date back to before recorded history. There are literally caves that exist in South Africa that literally depict like people doing like fishing with like sticks. And there's other caves that you can find that are in like I think it's in the south of France that has like like finger paintings in caves of like animals being hunted. And so
Absolutely butchered. Sorry.
yeah, and also animals that don't exist now too. By the way, I should point that out. But yeah, so like a lot of traditions, I think they kind of start that way, and you could think of them kind of like either practice traditions or oral traditions that are passed through through the centuries by word of mouth.
Okay.
But once you get into into essentially the history of the world that's been recorded, written history, I think that's when you start seeing a kind of like a splinter, and that splinter begins with basically religion. Traditions and religion became interwoven because they become the foundations of general centers of commerce, and commerce is how culture is essentially spread throughout a region of the world. And that's the reason why they're all interconnected, is because they're basically kind of like one leads to the next, which leads to the next, which leads to the next, which leads to the next. And
gotcha.
Depending on how long those particular beliefs have been in place, how long those particular practices have been maintained, that's what dictates whether or not it falls under certain things. You could think of like family traditions as probably one of the more newer traditions, in the sense that like a family tradition today kind of makes up the idea of going for a swim on the first day of summer, maybe like celebrating birthdays, considering like certain things, maybe like having like bachelor or bachelorette parties, having a movie night, being like certain things that are considered like common today. These would be
but
considered,
wouldn't have been common.
yeah, because they were just didn't exist. There's a lot of things that just didn't exist, back then. So it just kind of depends on the different things, and also kind of what those things mean. Are values that are given to specific cultures, and those cultures take on certain roles, and they become something that becomes, I would say, almost ritualized in nature, and then it becomes a tradition. And so and so I think that there's something about that kind of intertwines. Now, has there always been a celebration at certain times of the year? Absolutely. You can always imagine there was probably a gathering of people during a feast during certain times of harvest. People often would feast and have a celebration because they knew, that there was going to be a harsh winter ahead. And so it's kind of like a way of kind of like fattening up and also kind of getting people together. And so kind of knowing, okay, who's your ally and who's not, who's going to work together and who's not. I think that they kind of traditions take on different roles during different periods in history. And so it depends on the period, but I think through the research, it's very clear that they're all interconnected today, but the further back you go, the less connected they become, because they either didn't exist or because certain practices just weren't being done. And the importance of what was important to the people changed too. A big hunt mattered a lot for a long period of time, but now in the modern day, going out for a big hunt, yeah, in some parts of the world it's a big deal, but that's not a big deal in every part of the world anymore. So I think it's important to note that. And it's not that like in the US, there absolutely are hunts. Just want that to be very clear. Like there are tons of people who go hunting every year for a whole bunch of different types of game. I know I've wanted to do that myself. But I also think that like, it's important that like it takes on a different connotation today than it does in the past. And being able to identify those different connotations, that's what's interesting. And I'd be eager to know if anyone in the comment section wants to say or suggest any particular time periods that you'd like us to revisit in the future. Because I'm happy to talk about this subject more. There is so much involved in it. So
I've got a little brain thought now.
Sure.
I remember you said that, traditions were originally passed before, the written language. They were usually passed by word of mouth.
Word of mouth or physical practice.
Or physical practice. I wonder how many of those traditions that were passed down through word of mouth got telephoned,
Oh, you mean like do this and then like the next person says it, but they'll leave a little piece out or changes it. And so like 10 generations later, it means something completely different.
Because it's like, with the just straight up, physical practice, those would be able to get fixed if there's any, mistake or whatever.
Hmm.
But what about those which were just passed by word of mouth, but you weren't able to practice, whether it be through because of financial trouble or because the materials weren't there or you just weren't in a position to? What happened to those? Like, did they just, especially before written language, it's just
Hmm.
like, did they get telephoned? And if so, how much of it changed?
Well, I couldn't say that for certain. I mean, I definitely think the opportunity for that to have happened probably many times was definitely there. But there's something that's interesting that anthropologists have examined in
Yeah.
cultures where they find that some oral traditions are remarkably precise.
Ooh.
Like where the same thing is said and repeated in the same way. Like there are
Okay.
there are tales that I've heard when I was younger from people who were indigenous peoples
Mm-hmm.
of North America, and
Yeah.
their tribe has specific oral traditions that they pass down, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the story is more or less exactly the same as their ancestor told it. There wasn't embellishments. There wasn't like crazy theatrical things. A lot of times when there was theatrical things, they were
Mm-hmm.
done like in that culture, for instance, they were done through dance, or like
Impressive.
certain certain clothing might be more ornate and flashy,
Mm-hmm.
but the story itself that connects it very similar, if not exactly the same.
All
Uh,
right.
and so I think that like while there's certainly the possibility that the telephone thing could have happened, I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely would not be like, oh yeah, that could never happen. Of course that can't. I mean, humans are at fault. But the complexity of what usually gets communicated is pretty simple. Like I mean, most of the times, like the things that were passed on were like things like where to throw a spear, where to shoot an arrow, how to take down an animal, what's the proper way of cleaning it or gutting it.
Yeah.
And those are the types of things that typically, like when it comes to hunting stuff, those were the
Mm-hmm.
traditions that would be like, I think would probably be the most accurate because you'd have to screw up really bad consistently to get that wrong in a major way, right? Like it's not like, oh yeah, by the way, instead of left I meant right, and instead of right I meant down more, and instead of neck I meant belly, or it's like I think that like there's certain things that you kind of like you would know, and there's a level of muscle memory that kind of like plays in. I've
Mm.
had, although I can't specifically point to this particular thing and be like, oh yeah, this is definitely here. I've had like this like impression before when I've done something totally brand new, but it was
Mm-hmm.
something that was like super basic. I feel like
Yeah.
some of my ancestors might have done something like this, and I had
Yeah.
this like feeling of like innately already kind of knowing how to do it. Now I have no real basis for for this feeling, and maybe I was total amateur. I'm just overconfident in what I'm doing, right? But I think it's possible that maybe there's some sort of like imprint maybe that happens genetically where you have like a predisposition to certain things. I've seen people who are natural swimmers that never need to be taught anything at all. They just thrown in the water and start swimming. You know, there are certain things that seem kind of strange, and I wonder how that would plug in to certain particular traditions or beliefs.
All right then.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely kind of it has to at some level. I just don't know how far down that particular rabbit hole we're willing to go.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing that we can kind of touch on a little bit is the idea of cultural traditions and religious traditions versus standard traditions.
Mm.
And when I say
Okay.
standard tradition, I guess what I'm
Yeah.
referring to is something that is a bit generic, right?
Yeah.
This might fall under like the family tradition camp, like
Okay.
celebrating a birthday perhaps, or like a wedding, being something
Mm.
that is a tradition that is commonly represented around the world. You will find it very common throughout most of the world that they usually celebrate people's birthdays, the day of their birth,
Yeah.
or something to that effect, and they also typically celebrate the union of two people. They're pretty common. It's not that there aren't cultures out there that don't. I just we're speaking in generalities here. Like we're speaking in mostly generalities. So I want to yes, we can nitpick this, but you know,
there's a lot of things we can nitpick.
Yeah. And so like that's what I mean by a standard tradition. A religious tradition is kind of like observance of specific days for certain reasons, particular practices that specifically pertain to a religious event. And then there's cultural traditions. A cultural tradition is separate. Although this is a very American thing, I think the 4th of July would be considered a cultural tradition. I hate fireworks. You know, the 4th of July is a day of dread. Really, it's just like a couple of months of just sheer dread. I hate the moment fireworks become for sale till like the moment that like people run out of fireworks. Like that whole window is just, it's havoc for me because I'm hearing. It's like a war zone, you know, where I live. It's half the reason why I just want I just want a big plot of land in the middle of fucking nowhere. So that way, if someone has a firework, I'm like, get off my lawn.
Okay.
You know, like I don't know.
Not gonna lie, I don't like fireworks either because my microphone is sensitive enough to pick them up no matter how far they are.
Yeah.
And the last time there were fireworks, New Year's, because my friend who I was in the middle of the call with, because everybody else was celebrating by themselves,
sure,
or in a group, so I was just in a call with somebody. And they legit joked that I sounded like I was in the middle of a war zone.
Oh my gosh. All right, Kyle. Yeah, Halloween. I love to celebrate fantasy, magic, and the spooky. That's awesome. That's definitely what I think falls under cultural tradition. Definitely something that's really cool.
This is Halloween.
Oh my god.
No, this is January, Rose. It's like,
yeah, seriously,
this is Halloween in my heart.
It's Halloween in your heart every day. Okay, it's fine. but here's the thing you have to remember. All right, and this is very important. Okay. You got 9-10 more months. Okay.
Hey, I'm not the person who prepares for the next Christmas all the way right after Christmas.
Low blow. Shots fired.
I wasn't referring to you.
I know you weren't, but like it hurt. I hurt close to hand. You know, like.
Oof.
Damn.
Sorry.
Ow. Yeah. Hey, like shh. Yeah. Don't make fun of people like that. All right. Respect them. They deserve respect. Honestly, like I'm gonna say this now. My absolute favorite thing of all time I ever saw in any TV program, period. I know this is gonna be off topic. I'm sorry, but like there was this thing in that '70s show years ago I watched, where Red Foreman had a bag full of gifts, okay, and he stashes it right, and so that way if he never forgets an anniversary, never forgets a Christmas, never forgets a birthday, because he's got this bag full of gifts. And so you go into the bag and grab a gift during any
major.
major.
Just start doing that.
That's what I want to do. Like legitimately, like I want to do that.
If I just see something that just reminds me of somebody, it's just like mine. I do not have the funds for it right now, but mine.
See, to me, I just feel like that's not like I can't take that approach. I can't take that approach for a very specific reason. Because I would have a garage just full of random unopened shit, and I would just be like, "Welcome to Justin's store. What would you like for this holiday?"
Welcome to Justin's workshop. We're gonna replace Santa at this point.
No. Don't do that to me. People just show up at my house. I want a gift. Merry Christmas. So just like having people just show up. You're just like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you know." It's my birthday. Really, I'm driver's license full. You know, like just like pulling it out. Let's see here, Kyle. It says, "I love celebrating that bring magic and the mystery into the world." Yeah, I mean, hey, you know, half the reason I chose the profession of psychology is because I like the mystery of the human mind. Mysteries make the world interesting. Yeah.
I'd rather have interesting than boring.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Lots of cultures have rituals and traditions that bring magic into the world. I love them all. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I mean, celebrating other cultures and other sorts of rituals and traditions are absolutely fantastic. If you have a particular one, like, go ahead and share it. I mean, I'm happy to learn something new about one of the wonderful consistent viewers out there. Yeah.
And with regard to people who love Christmas too much, whatever makes you happy, just please lay off the jingles.
No, more jingles, louder caroling. See, honestly, you know what I want to see? And like, I don't drink, but like, this would make me absolutely just love. I would love life if I saw this.
Okay.
A large group of carolers that are very passionate about caroling, but they're completely drunk off their ass. And so like they're like singing, but like off, out of tune, wrong words. Just like
that sounds marvelous.
Just like and you know what? And I would even throw in maybe some different accents. We just pepper in a couple people from different parts of the world. I don't really care where. Let's get somebody from like, I don't know, like Thailand. Let's get somebody from like Scotland. Somebody from like, I don't know.
Imagine France, you tell them they're caroling, but you don't tell them the song, so they all just choose one.
Oh, I know, right?
That's different cultures.
That would be so funny.
The absolute mess. If it actually sounded decent, I would be pleasantly surprised.
I would it would just make me laugh. I would want that so bad. Like I'd be so entertained. It would be so funny. Alas, that would probably never happen though, sadly. But anyways, yeah. When it comes to other traditions, though, like let's get back on topic here. Yeah. So there are many traditions from around the world. The vast majority of traditions that seem to like be consistent are obviously rooted in religiosity, and they're also rooted in specific regions of the world that are kind of just like, I wouldn't say exactly the same as they've always been, but have a connection to their roots. And that's what seems to be like the certain traditions that are specifically like useful to specific parts of the world, and I think are the things that we should consider observing sometimes. I think that like being able to acknowledge other parts of the world and what their beliefs are can maybe give us insight on how we live our lives, and perhaps can help everyone grow. So I would encourage any of our viewers out there to go learn a new tradition, new culture, go explore, and go find something that you didn't know, and maybe give it a try. Maybe it isn't your thing, but at least you'll grow as a person because you'll be better for the experience. And I just want to kind of leave it there. I think that this has been a fun topic. I would be happy to discuss this further. If this is a topic that's important to you, please reach out to the show. And if you guys are watching this in the future and you guys have a particular tradition that you practice that maybe we didn't mention, go ahead and throw in the chat. I would love to read and learn more about you guys. Yeah, that's going to be it for the show, though. That's it for tonight. Yes, the Wheel of Challenge is back. Hot showers all this month.
I didn't start after.
This is gonna suck. Like legitimately. Like this is gonna be genuinely painful for me because like I said, like I will have dry. The only thing I hope for is I hope for more rains. That way, after my extremely hot shower, I can at least just like go out and act like a complete and total fool out there and just be like, look at all the steam coming off my body.
Just release your inner child.
Just go singing in the rain. Just singing in the rain.
If you come across other children who see the steam, it's like, oh, Magic Man.
No, I'll just pretend like I'm turning into a Super Saiyan. It's all right. Like, ah! That'd be really funny. Yeah, all right. So, yes, Wheel of Challenge is back. Feel free to throw your challenges in the suggestion area for the comments and stuff like that. Please be sure to keep them safe. And please, if you want to, tag along. We will give full, detailed responses, unlike last time. So, look forward to our pain journals. Yeah. And we'll see you all in the next one. Thank you for watching, everybody, and have yourself a great rest of the night. Later.